What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another gaming channel. My name is AJ Gels. How y'all doing? It is time once more for the weekly show. If you're new to this program, basically what I do, I sit here, I gather news from around the web involving video games. We sit here, we talk about it usually for about a half hour. At least that's what I try to get it to be. Finally, we're done. We're out of that post E3 mode where there's really not a whole lot. I mean, still this week, I wouldn't say there's technically a whole lot, but more than I've been having you for the past while. To answer anybody who's wondering where's any of the stuff from Comic-Con, honestly, I saw about 2 games at Comic-Con that interest me. One being the final season for The Walking Dead, and really I think August 14th is when the first episode of that drops. And in all honesty, I saw like a 50-second trailer, and not much to talk about there. I also saw the new Spider-Man trailer, which looks good. Really good trailer. We see Silver Sable. Osborn is talking over most of it, and sounds like he's being very anti-Spider-Man. I think it looks cool. Really interested in that. There's also rumors that the Tombstone, I think is his name, might be in this new Spider-Man game. I don't know much about the villain, so I'm not really going to comment on that. We also saw I think a new suit, the Velocity suit, got announced. I'm willing to bet, seeing the name of that suit, you swing faster with it. But in all honesty, just not a lot of stuff that I could sit here and talk about. So I thought, I'm really not going to talk about it this week. Kind of like what was going on at with No Man's Sky. I have zero interest in that title. I hated the original version, and now the new version, still hate it. I just don't give a shit about it. And if you care about it and want me to weigh in on something, tell me, and I will. That's my thing. It's just I really have no passion for the topic. Which, as you see from the title of the video, later on, as you can see up here, we'll be talking some Microsoft stuff. But before any of that, I thought we should start with a little I guess puff piece, but a little something that I found funny from this week. That's Konami quashes 17-year-old fans' ambitious attempt to remake Kojima's horror marvel PT, but reportedly offers an internship in the process. Article by Matt Wales of Eurogamer. Konami has flexed its legal muscles and quashed an ambitious attempt by an enthusiastic 17-year-old fan to remake Hideo Kojima's PS4 micro horror masterpiece, PT for PC. But in a surprisingly positive twist, he seemingly offered an internship in the process. Look, I'm gonna throw this out there. This kid remade PT for the PC. For what it was, look, PT scared the living crap out of me, but I'm a giant wuss. You're only offering this kid an internship? Come on! This could be the next Kojima. You let the original one go. Or, locked him in a room for like a year. Remember that year that he wasn't able to go to the Game Awards and because everybody was just assuming Konami had him like locked in a room? PT, aka Playable Teaser, surprise launched during Sony's Gamescom conference in 2014 and was initially at least shrouded in mystery. Supposedly, a demo for a larger game of the same name, PT, quickly garnered praise for its stiflingly atmospheric, genuinely unnerving take on first-person horror, all the more impressive for the fact that it unfolded in a single tiny location, never-looping corridor in a largely unremarkable family home. Yeah, and then there was also something about how you had to walk around, look at pictures to get, like, puzzle pieces to get, like, the true ending. There was some sort of, like, spooky ghost. What was it? There was some sort of, like, weird aborted fetus if people want to tell me that's offensive or whatever what I just said, watch a playthrough of PT. That fucking happened. Holy shit, that was in the game. Like, I still have nightmares from the little bit of PT that I played. I played it in a room with 3 people and I still cried. No. Never again. Oh God. Sorry, I'm shaking a little bit here. Although Hideo Kojima's name wasn't attached to the oddity on release, it bore the name of fictitious developer 7780's studio. PT contained sufficient clues that fans quickly put the pieces together And it took only slightly longer for dedicated sleuths to solve its final mystery, discovering that PT was, in fact, a teaser for a brand new entry in Konami's long-neglected Silent Hill series, one from Hideo Kojima, The Shape of Water director Guillermo del Toro. Look, I don't like Guillermo del Toro, but you're going to credit The Shape of Water to him? Wait, didn't that win an Oscar? Whatever. I don't know. I think there was better things you could... the only thing I really liked from Guillermo del Toro is Troll Hunters on Netflix. Sorry, tangent. I'll keep going. And reportedly, manga horror master Junji Ito. I feel like I've seen something by Ito. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Unfortunately, Silent Hills, as the project was known, never released. It was canceled in 2015, and Konami permanently pulled PT from the PlayStation Store, meaning that it now mainly lives only on the hard drives of those PS4 owners swift enough to preserve it for posterity. Homework for anybody: go see. Is anybody selling something like that on eBay, like a PS4 that has PT on it? Like, I want to know how much that would sell for. Needless to say, PT's elusiveness has led passionate fans down people edit these things. Fans down many different avenues to keep its legacy as a genuinely remarkable piece of horror gaming history alive, including several attempts to rebuild the experience from scratch, all of which leads us back to one of the most high-profile efforts, PT for PC, created by a 17-year-old enthusiastic developer. I'm going Kimsar. Kimsar? I'm not entirely sure. PT for PC first garnered attention several weeks back when Kimsar announced in a Reddit post that he'd been working on a remake of PT in Unreal Engine as his very first development project, no less, since January of this year, and I quote, "Many others have begun trying to make their own ports," he said at the time, "but as far as I can tell, I'm the only person who's still working on it, and I'm the only one who will finish," end quote. Well, not anymore. And all seemed to be going well. 5 days ago, Keemstar released VO.9.2 of PT for PC. That's a mouthful. And it was to be followed by a new animation update, which would place the remake, and I quote, "very, very close to being done," end quote. However, since as detailed in a lengthy new blog post, a Konami representative, seemingly online and social media manager Asim Tanvir, had been in touch. And I quote, "He essentially told me that he was very sorry for being the bearer of bad news, but I would have to take down my remake," Keemstar explained. "I was told that he and many other people at Konami saw and really liked my remake, but legit due to legal issues that were out of his or anybody else's control, really, he had to ask me to take down my remake," end quote. Okay, is that technically true? Is it not? Because it's their choice whether or not to file the lawsuit. Like, how is that legal issues? Like is it? Unless he's speaking from a personal and other people's, but the overall company has a choice whether or not to file a lawsuit. I guess that's what it is. And okay, never mind. I'll retract my comment unless I get further explanation of that, because technically it is the company's choice whether or not to file a lawsuit over trademark infringement, or would it be copyright? It's copyright, not trademark. Sorry. Keemstar agreed to comply with the request, and after a lengthy chat, was told that some Konami merchandise would be sent out shortly. And in the longer term, in a remarkably positive turn of events, it seems like a potential internship with Konami has been mooted, and I quote, "in which I would do stuff with Konami US, EU, and Japan," end quote, and offer that Konami will hopefully honor. For his part, Keemsar, admits to being a little disappointed at the sudden collapse of his first big project, but he's dealing with the news in admirably good spirits. And I quote, "I guess I'll just chillax for the time being and spend some time learning some more about using Blender, 3ds Max, and Substance," end quote. He explained, noting that he still plans to finish his project privately, if possible, and I quote, "I hope this isn't an issue with Konami, but I still intend to keep my promise on being the first one to finish a PT remake just to show it to my dad and make him extra proud." End quote. End of the article. I think it is a little bullshit. I mean, come on. Reportedly, they offered an internship. And again, when you get into paragraph 8, it's a potential internship. Come on, guys. This is a 17-year-old in his free time is porting your game into PC, and you're like, maybe we'll offer an internship. Come on. I don't know. I thought this was a fun story to kind of start off with. Put me in a good mood. I like stuff like this. I mean, honestly, I would not play PT on the PC. Again, that's a mouthful for some reason. Mostly because, again, PT scared the ever-living crap out of me. But, ugh. All right. Let's move on to some stuff I think people really want to talk about. In that article on PC Gamer, former Visceral creative director reveals plans for Dead Space 4. Article Rick Lane of PC Gamer. See here, a sequel would have expanded upon Dead Space 3's Flotilla section. Well, I can tell you there's a reason why this didn't get made, and that's because Dead Space 3 sucked. I'm sorry to everybody, but it did. Article reads, new informant has emerged detailing Visceral Games' aborted plans for what would have been Dead Space 4. Speaking to Eurogamer, former Dead Space creative director Ben Wannett? I'm going with Wannett. Or Wannett, that's what I'm going with, revealed Dead Space 4 would have placed greater emphasis on exploration and scavenging resources for survival, blending the previous game's tightly scripted action with larger, more open areas that the player could explore freely. Okay, so going more in... I don't want to say deeper into the survival horror genre, because I think Dead Space is, in itself, a survival horror game, but still going for that more open world aspect of it. The notion, and I quote, the notion was you were trying to survive day to day against infested ships, searching for a glimmer of life, scavenging supplies to keep your own little ship going, trying to find survivors, end quote, said Wannett, who knows, who is now creative director at Crystal Dynamics. Dead Space 4 would have expanded upon the Lost Flotilla chapter of Dead Space 3, in which Isaac drifted through a graveyard of destroyed spaceships on the trail of an SOS signal. And I quote, the Flotilla section in Dead Space 3 hinted at what non-linear gameplay could be, and I would have loved to go a lot deeper into that, end quote, Wannett said. See, I don't know. Anybody else not play Dead Space 3? I didn't get around to it. Dead Space 1, loved it. Dead Space 2, loved it. I remember when it came out, and I didn't have the cash at the time to buy it, so I did what I always do. I watched a Let's Play, and I'm watching it going, oh, no. Because as far as I can tell from people, not well received. As far as I could tell, people were not a big fan of Dead Space 3. Somebody feel free to correct me, but from what I remember, Dead Space 3 was not well loved. Where was I? I was in this paragraph. The concept was that the player would hop from ship to ship, seeking out equipment and battling the horde of necromorphs that undoubtedly would have lurked inside. Why not planned for these ships to be highly distinct from one another, and I quote, imagine an entire roster of ship types, each with unique purposes, floor plans, and gameplay. Our original prototypes for the Dead Space 3 Flotilla had some pretty wild setups that I wish we had been able to use, end quote. The article reveals a couple of other interesting details. Dead Space 4 likely wouldn't have featured Isaac Clarke as the main character. There were no solid plans for who the player would have controlled, but Wannett's preferred choice of protagonist was Ellie, a side character featured in Dead Space 3. In addition, Dead Space 4 would have introduced a new range of necromorphs that were more dangerous in zero-G environments and reworked the controversial crafting element of the previous game. I love, and I quote, I love that it gave players creativity in putting together their weapons, but it became very difficult to tune when you allowed players to break the primary and alt-fire pairings, Wannett said, end quote. Yeah, I think that was the biggest complaint, was that weird crafting system with the weapons, was that it didn't work. Article continues, Visceral, of course, never got the chance to put these ideas into action, having been added to EA's own studio graveyard late last year. Yeah, and we all know what EA is going to do with anything. Nonetheless, the revelations form yet another chapter in the series' fascinating history. Last year, Eurogamer also revealed that Visceral's original vision for Dead Space 3 was very different from the final product, while PC Gamer contributed Matt Paget learned that the original Dead Space began life as a System Shock 3. Oh, really? So there you go. Look at what could have been. I think, honestly, the idea for Dead Space 4 that they were just talking about there, really cool. I would have played that in a heartbeat. I think that's awesome. And like I said, I really love Dead Space 1 and 2. But again, from everything I've heard, Dead Space 3 just was not up to snuff. So I understand why it didn't continue. Although, again, EA, and I've honestly, for the last I'm not going to go deep into that, because for the last 2 weeks I've been sitting here pulling my hair out because of EA. Just, I'm kind of done with that. So moving on to the main topic of this video. And honestly, I guess the last video kind of ties into this, because because even though Dead Space was on other platforms, I associate it with Xbox. And I know that's weird because it wasn't an Xbox exclusive, but whatever. Ubisoft games on PC outsold Xbox last quarter. Article by Colin Stevens, IGN. Now this combines two things that I absolutely that I enjoy talking about. One, Ubisoft, because as always, if anybody has watched me long enough knows I'm a massive Ubisoft fan. But two, I have massive issues with what Xbox has been doing this generation. I mean, all the way through. I keep saying that that EA is basically trying to shoot itself in the foot, yet I think that they're trying to do something worse. I think they're trying to race to see how fast they can crash that massive company. I think Xbox is probably the one that's just trying to shoot themselves in the foot, just because it's like they keep having chances to do something with this company, because they got great IPs. I think they honestly have a good console. I mean, I have problems with the Xbox, and I'll go into them probably in the next article. But overall, and I'm sure Microsoft is perfectly happy because they're making money with the PC. But I'm a console guy. That I just think Xbox is having massive problems, and I hope for next generation they take a serious look at that and dive into it. So here, let's actually get into this article now. Ubisoft revealed in a first quarter sales report that its games on PC outsold their Xbox One counterparts last quarter. Ubisoft quarterly sales reports noted that PC games contributed to 24% of its overall sales, while Xbox One games coming in just shy of that at 22%. For reference, that amounts to 3% gain in PC sales and no increase or decrease in Xbox One sales when compared to last year's first quarter. Right, because more people are buying Xbox One, or because not many people, because the Xbox One sales numbers really aren't massively rising. PC, people are always going to be playing PC. And right here, we'll look at the PS4 numbers. PS4 brought in 38% of its sales, a 6% decrease from last year, and the Switch brought in 5% of its sales. Again, not surprising that the Switch is kind of coming up, because the Switch being the new console, especially with Mario Kingdom Rabbids. The PS4, the decrease, kind of understand, but seeing that more and more the PS4 probably isn't. There's not. I think the PS4 sales are starting to taper off, but not surprising. The report also revealed that North America is Ubisoft's largest market, accounting for 45% of its sales, with Europe at 35% and all other regions at 20%. And I quote, "We had a record first quarter which exceeds our expectations," said Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot. DLC released during the first quarter include Far Cry 5 Hours of Darkness, great by the way, and Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle Donkey Kong Adventure. It's unclear exactly what shifted the sales numbers, though the rise of Switch game sales over the last year definitely impacted the overall range of games they sold. Ubisoft has a healthy lineup of digital content for the second quarter of 2018, which spans from July to September. This includes more DLC for Far Cry 5, South Park: The Fractured But Whole, DLC Bring the Crunch. Ubisoft and Yves Guillemot recently made headlines by buying Blue Mammoth Games, claiming the next console generation will likely be the last, and believing that streaming games will manage to reach 5 billion players in a decade. I kind of agree with that about streaming. I question if the next console generation truly will be the last. I have massive qualms about that, or I have massive skepticism on that. I don't know why. It's just something that's making me go, really? Honestly, out of this article, I think the most interesting thing is the fact that PS4 dropped in 6%. I'm not entirely sure what would have caused that. I don't think the Switch really would have affected that too much. But I mean, I think the consistency of Xbox One sales is, again, it comes down to the sales of the Xbox One in general. Mix that with the fact that Ubisoft this generation has gone heavily with the Xbox One, be it The Division, be it Assassin's Creed Origins, just No, not Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves is not a Ubisoft title. I don't know why I thought it was. Because I'm thinking Skull and Bones. I'm thinking another pirate game. But Ubisoft has really kind of tied itself in with the Xbox One this generation. So it just seems like they're not pushing the PS4 side. But I mean, even then, the PS4 side is still at 38% of its total sales. So, take that for what it's worth. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure why. I'm sitting here just kind of racking my brain. What's with the 6% decrease from PS4 sales? But I can't come up with anything necessarily. But again, I find the Xbox consistency not super surprising. But it's this is like I said. I think this is and we'll move on here because this is kind of I find this funny because I think Microsoft kind of trolled people with this, that Microsoft will reveal Xbox surprises at Gamescom. My whole thing with the Xbox or the Xbox One is, I think it is a good platform for gaming. I do. But overall, its massive issue is the... I'm trying to think how to explain this. I think they tried to do too much with the Xbox One, if that makes sense. I think they were shooting for this all-in-one media console, shooting for, oh, you can watch TV on it, you can do this, you can Skype, and you can do all this crap with it. And I think we saw this at E3, where they kept talking about services and the console itself and all this. What did Sony do? Sony's like, here's games. Say what you want about the Sony conference, with the weird break after The Last of Us that a lot of people had a problem with. I still think that Sony destroyed Microsoft with this year's E3. It's just because I don't think what did Microsoft really show off in the realms of amazing exclusives. I mean, we saw look at a new Ori. They still have PUBG, but it's still being outflanked by Fortnite, sadly. Forza? But I don't think Forza is going to draw in isn't going to push sales. I mean, I think Gears of War and a new Halo might have been the two biggest things, but still, we didn't see anything in the realms of a new what is it? We didn't see anything in the terms of a new of the new Fable title. We saw stuff about Crackdown 3, but we're about to talk some Crackdown 3 in the next one, that maybe Crackdown 3 might not be as great as people think it was. And then Remedy announced a new game, Control, which looks awesome, and I love Remedy, so I'm super pumped up for it. But at the same time, where's my Alan Wake and Quantum Break sequel? Because one Quantum Break needs a sequel. And again, that's what we'll talk about in the last article. Quantum Break needs a sequel, and Alan Wake needs a sequel. Just saying. But again, it's just Microsoft as generally, I think, isn't doing everything it can to push this console. It kind of, to me, feels like they've kind of just like, hey, look, let's ride it out. Let's make as much as we can this console generation and try to do it better next generation. It's almost the opposite of what the PS3 did last gen, because what the PS3 did, they were getting stomped by the Xbox 360, and I think there's a reason for it. I think the PS3 tried to do too much. It tried to do too much. It cost $600 at launch. People joke it looked funny, which it kind of did. And I think the at launch exclusives, think Xbox had it. Later in the generation, the PS3 did gain ground because I think the Xbox kind of tapered off. But I mean, in this generation, the PlayStation 4 just demolished. Because the PlayStation 4 is sleek, they have great services on it that they don't feel the need to just talk about constantly. But it has great games, it has everything. It's more show, not tell. And I think the Xbox, the UI is so confusing and the amount of stuff it does is so just jumbled. It's you have to talk about it, you have to talk about it, you have to tell about it, you can't just show it. If that makes sense to anybody. All right, I'm sorry. I went on a semi-coherent rant there. All right, let's get into this. Like I said, this is Microsoft is promising some stuff at Gamescom here. Microsoft plans for August Gamescom include showcasing, and I quote, all new Xbox hardware and accessories. Microsoft's Larry Major Nelson Herb announced today the new hardware will be debuted during Microsoft's Gamescom edition of its Inside Xbox broadcast live from its booth on August 21st at 7:30 a.m. PDT. Naturally, Microsoft also plans to show off some features from its upcoming slate of Xbox games, and perhaps even a few surprises. Major Nelson said Microsoft's Gamescom lineup will include 25 games from various Xbox developers around the world, like Forza Horizon 4 and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Also appearing at the show will be a PUBG mode that's new to Xbox One, and State of Decay 2's Daybreak Pack, which releases in September. I'm actually kind of interested about that, because I'm still loving State of Decay 2. As for the new hardware, Executive Vice President of Gaming at Microsoft, Phil Spencer, said during E3 that Microsoft was, and I quote, deep into architecting the next Xbox consoles, where we will once again deliver on our commitment to deliver the benchmark of console gaming, end quote. But you did not do that this generation, god damn it. Make your your controller is clunky and weird. The PlayStation 4's controller fits much better in the hand. The triggers, in my opinion, are way better. Sorry. I don't think... You didn't focus on gaming, though, with this console. You focused on making it a media platform. And that blew up in your face this generation. Those consoles are rumored to be codenamed Scarlet and to be launching in 2020. Next month is probably too early for Microsoft to be showing Scarlet, but it could be showing another new limited edition Xbox One X, like the Deadpool 2 themed console. It could also be showing another new controller, like the Xbox Adaptive Controller or Sport White Special Edition controller. I will say the Xbox One Pro controller, or whatever the hell it was called, the one that had that weird disc for the D-pad, that one, I've held that one much better in the hand than the current Xbox One controller. I think the new one just sucks. Or the current one, the base one just blows, in my opinion. There has been an update to this. Microsoft has updated its blog post and changed the text from all new Xbox hardware and accessories to new Xbox One bundles and accessories. So this is Xbox kind of, again, this is a problem mostly in its marketing department, where they're coming out and saying, "Hey, here's some new stuff," or you know, we're gonna be showing new hardware. Everybody gets all excited and go, "Oh, whoa, new bundles," and then everybody just oh. I stand by it. I think. Mostly, I talked about this just so I could rant about Microsoft. But overall, I think the Xbox has a lot of opportunities to it that just aren't being pushed. And again, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe at Gamescom they come out and show something good. Because there's, like they're saying, they include 25 games. Well, I'm going to guess, like they said, Forza Horizon 4, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, State of Decay, PUBG. I mean, what? Probably some of that indie game that they're producing where you play as that bird lady in the boat. If anybody remembers what game that was, I can't remember what the hell it was called. That they showed off at Xbox at the conference. That's probably going to be showed. I mean, there's going to be various things shown, but my question is, again, for the love of God, you want easy money? Where the fuck is the Fable 4 game that apparently is being made? Where the hell is it? I guess that's my biggest problem right now with Microsoft, is the whole Fable 4 thing. I just want to know where it is. All right, moving on. This is an article on WCCF Tech. Crackdown 3 reportedly on its last delay, cloud player multiplayer too big for Xbox One. Article Nathan Birch of, like I said, WCCF Tech. I've never used this site before. The development of Crackdown 3 has been a bit of a mess. That's putting it lightly. Even a relatively casual observer could see that. When the game was first unveiled back in 2014, Microsoft promised a fully destructible multiplayer playground powered by cutting-edge cloud tech developed by series creative David Jones and his company CloudGen. Unfortunately, aside from a brief pre-alpha demo shown at Gamescom 2015, Crackdown 3's multiplayer has been almost entirely MIA. What's with the secrecy? Well, I think the secrecy is it won't work. I mean, what they were talking about was a super ambitious project. I mean, really cool idea. I loved the original Crackdown. Really didn't play Crackdown 2. And I saw Crackdown 3 at E3. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll give this thing a shot, most definitely. But the whole idea of the multiplayer in this massive destructive world just won't work. This is a problem. This is kind of like, again, going back to Fable. This is like when, oh, god damn it, who's the head of the Fable projects? I can't remember his name. Oh, well. when he announced all the stuff for the original Fable that just never came to Fable, just because it was too ambitious for the time. Well, a new insider report from Eurogamer sheds some light on the development of Crackdown 3, and things don't sound too promising for the much ballyhooed multiplayer. According to David Jones, he was only ever a consultant brought on to help with the game's cloud tech, and was never actively involved in multiplayer development. The demo he showed at Gamescom was just a proof of concept, so who is making the multiplayer? That's somewhat unclear, although Jones implies it's Sumo Digital, who, up until now, has only been officially attached to the single-player component of Crackdown 3. According to the anonymous sources Eurogamer spoke to, the whole cloud-powered 100% destructible multiplayer Microsoft and Jones pitched was simply too big to work on the Xbox One. Yeah, no shit. That said, as of mid-2017, there was at least some form of multiplayer in place. The mode entitled Wrecking Zone supported 10 players, and the goal was to destroy your enemy's tower before the time ran out. Matches were around 20 to 30 minutes long. It's unclear if this version of multiplayer made any use of cloud tech. Jones says the ball's in Microsoft court now. There's a bunch of technology the cloud engine developed for Crackdown. How that gets used, I don't know. Ultimately, that's Microsoft's decision, but that depends on cost. There are many factors on that. I was really just there to show the potential for the cloud, and then Microsoft would keep working on that depending on how they wanted to surface that, end quote. From what I remember, the whole promise of the cloud tech thing was basically it would push the processing power of like 3 or 4 different people's Xbox Ones all playing together in the world of Crackdown 3. So basically, it's I'm trying to think how to describe this from a technical standpoint, but using terms that I understand. As I understood it, it was kind of like a bunch of computers running together to make something look even better, if that makes sense. It was like 3 or 4 Xbox Ones using the cloud to run together to make the game bigger and more destructible, and yada yada yada. I think that was the basic idea for the cloud support, as far as I understood it. Crackdown 3 was recently delayed yet again, this time to February 2019. It was Xbox boss Phil Spencer who made that call after playing an uninspired build. Well, yeah, shit. And I quote, I started playing the game, and it didn't feel right to me. It felt like the game needed more time to reach what I think of as Crackdown, which I think should be a strong Xbox franchise, end quote. Well, and again, it's not. It just isn't. I'm sorry to say that, but really, who, when they think of Xbox, thinks Crackdown? Just immediately. Like, is Crackdown like the first thing you think of, or is it like 8 or 9 on the list of when you think of exclusives? Because I think Fable, I think Gears of War, I think Halo, Forza, even though I'm not a massive Forza fan. There's tons of games I think of before I even come to Crackdown on that list. I think they're putting their focus on the wrong franchises. Spencer strikes a hopeful tone, as he always does, but word is the makers of Crackdown 3 now face a ticking clock. Per UK development sources, Crackdown 3 was very nearly cancelled sometime within the past 12 months, and this final delay is the last one Microsoft will allow. Either the game will come out, or it will finally be put out of its misery. Somehow, some way, I hope Microsoft manages to salvage Crackdown 3, as I really enjoyed past games in the series. Unfortunately, the picture Eurogamer paints doesn't exactly fill me with confidence. What do you think Crackdown 3 is actually happening? Crackdown hopefully comes out PC, Xbox One on February 22nd, 2019. I mean, yes, I don't know. I'm hopeful because I like Crackdown, but yes, I've mostly just used these couple articles to rant about my problems with Microsoft. Maybe I should have done this just as its own video, but oh well. We're already into this. Alright, final article of the day. Remedy, Alan Wake, and Quantum Break can't get sequels without Microsoft approval. Approve it. I'm serious. I don't get it. Microsoft has so many great IPs. Why are these not getting greenlit? I mean, is Alan Wake not as big of a game as I remember it being? I mean, I feel like if you release another Alan Wake game, people would go ape shit over it. Quantum Break, maybe not so much. I think Quantum Break would have a smaller following. But Alan Wake, from what I remember, wasn't even that big on launch. It took a while for Alan Wake to actually really get people to kind of follow. It's kind of cult hit. And I think at least make an Alan Wake sequel. I mean, hell, let's also look at Sunset Overdrive. Make a sequel to it. You teased it, even. And hell, Quantum Break, in my opinion, teased a sequel. If anybody remembers the very end of the game, and spoilers for Quantum Break, I mean, you can watch the full Let's Play on my series, or on the channel. But the ending of Quantum Break, you had the girl that, well, I can't remember the main character's name. That the main character dude was, was chatting up, they kind of falling for each other and all that. And then at the very end of the game, time's frozen. He leans, into her ear, and, says, I'll come back for you. And then whatever, we end. I need to play that game over again. But again, Quantum Break, really good game. In all honesty, I'm just, we need a sequel to that. I hate cliffhangers that just don't go anywhere. Why aren't these titles getting greenlit? Maybe it's a money issue. Maybe it's a business. They don't think there's a market there. I just don't understand it. I think it's Microsoft. I can't see how they don't see that the current, their current path isn't working. I don't know. Again, I'm sorry. I start feeling like I'm making interesting points, and then I just rant and. Okay. Article Nick Santangelo, IGN. Alan Wake fans have been waiting a long time for a proper sequel. Yeah, but they may never get one, and that goes double for Quantum Break fans. The reason, according to developer Remedy Entertainment, is Microsoft doesn't want to make them. And I quote, considering our history, Alan Wake was really interesting, but it was a collaboration with Microsoft. Due to certain reasons, it never got a sequel, end quote. Remedy CEO Taro Vertala told GameIndustries.biz, and I quote, Quantum Break also, we put a lot of effort into creating the world, the characters, the stories, but still, it was Microsoft's IP. They decided not to take it further. If we owned the IP, it's fully in our hands to decide how we create it, how we develop, what are the creative decisions that we take, and then maybe one day in the future, if it proves to be successful, it's again in our hands to decide what will be done that was important for us, end quote. Learning from that, Remedy is doing things differently this time around with Control, which it debuted at E3 last month. Vertala said Control, and I quote, represents a new step for Remedy, end quote. That's in part because it wants to create shorter games and work on multiple projects. No! But it's also because for once, Remedy wants to start something it can continue later. And I quote, we can create excellent games, but the type of games we do with an immersive world and characters, memorable stories, those are typically building blocks in an entertainment business for franchises that could live for a long time, said Vertala. And now for the second time being in a position where we had done all that groundwork and then there was not a possibility to continue those series, we didn't want to face that again, end quote. Remedy released Alan Wake in 2010 on and followed it up with a smaller offshoot, Alan Wake's American Nightmare, in 2012. Actually, really good. Alan Wake was well received, garnering an 83 Metacritic score on both Xbox 360 and PC, though American Nightmare was reviewed a bit harsher, 76 on Xbox 360, 73 on PC. The two games had sold a combined 4.5 million copies as of March 2015, and Remedy even had a functioning Alan Wake 2 prototype. Quantum Break launched on Xbox One and PC in 2016, received an 8 out of 10 on IGN. I agree with that. Microsoft also called Quantum Break its biggest selling new IP this generation shortly after its release. When it releases in 2019, Control will be Remedy's first multi-console since 2003's Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne. Control bears a strong resemblance to Quantum Break, but it seems more tightly focused. See, and I think the biggest problem with Quantum Break was probably the TV show thing. I mean, it was a cool idea, and the fact, but it just kind of the focusing on the villains and the story got a little jumbled. But again, I kind of bringing this back to this topic of this video, and I'll try and wrap this up here in one tangible point, or coherent point, I guess is the better way to say that. Microsoft is taking these things, I'll use this studio as an example. They're saying that they're focusing on shorter kind of like, I'll kind of say this, like shorter, more bite-sized games, and I get it from them that it's got to be kind of disheartening when you make these two games that have this great worlds, great characters, and everything, and then the company, and then that Microsoft just says no to a sequel. But I just look at it and go, why? Why not put out that sequel? It'll sell. People will get talking about your I just don't get it. And maybe it's something that I'm not understanding about the industry. Maybe somebody can explain to me why Alan Wake or a Quantum Break sequel just wouldn't do well. Maybe Quantum Break I can kind of see. I still want it, but I can kind of see that one. But why not an Alan Wake sequel? I just don't get why Microsoft won't greenlight it. It makes no sense to me. And yes, it could be my bias as a massive fan of Alan Wake. Hell, I liked the sequel, or American Nightmare. I thought that was good. I just don't get why a sequel would not be greenlit. It's just, again, for a console that, in my opinion, is in such need of of big exclusives, I just don't get it, and it's sad to see this happen to a studio like Remedy that I think makes such great single player titles to now be focusing on more shallow, bite-sized kind of games than something like an Alan Wake or a Quantum Break, and I think that's a problem with the modern day industry, and I think Microsoft in trying to, I think Microsoft is trying to follow trends. And I think almost every company is failing to see one massive trend that Sony has really kind of latched onto, and that is single player games are still a massive, or hell, I'll even go this far to say the core of the industry. They sell titles, they sell consoles. I don't get why people do not see this. Gears of War, or not Gears of War, sorry, God of War, Uncharted, Detroit, massive, I'm only going exclusives, but I mean, hell, let's look at some of the other massive titles that have won Game of the Year and so on and so forth that are just story-based. The Witcher 3, Legend of Zelda. I mean, granted, Overwatch won Game of the Year, but I still have massive challenges against that. But it's something that I think this trend of this industry is trying to push more and more towards multiplayer, bite-sized games, stuff you can play with friends. But I think it's really missing out on a massive piece of the industry, and that is single-player exclusives, and that I think Sony is really getting back to, and Microsoft has almost forsaken. And I think it's going to bite Microsoft in the ass if they don't figure it out, because they're going to lose great studios and great talent like Remedy. So that's mine. I hope all this made sense. Like I said, I kind of use these last couple articles to kind of incoherently rant about some problems that I had with Microsoft. But hopefully this all made sense in the long run. I hope you enjoyed this to some degree. As always, if you think I didn't cover something this week, or you want me to cover something for next week's show, always you can get a hold of me on any of the social media platforms. That is Facebook, Twitter, the website, minds.com. All that stuff is down in the description below. Please remember to always comment, and if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel. I love chatting with you guys. You find me on PS4, Xbox One, or anything. I'm always happy to play online with anybody. I love doing that kind of stuff. So I think that's about all I got for you this week. Thanks for watching, and until next time, my name's AJ Gels. This is the Gaming Channel. I'm out.